Hello and welcome back to Assetto Corsa for yet another video on the Nordschleife challenge. Yes, this series has not gone away. It has just been really difficult to record due to lack of time, setting things up, and right now as I'm recording it is over 30 degrees Celsius in my room. That is with a fan running, so if you do hear a fan running in the background, I do apologise. If I do not have that running, the temperature is going to creep up probably another 3-4 degrees. In fact, whilst I'm driving, I think it is going to creep up another 3 or 4 degrees. But that shouldn't be a problem here unless my computer, my machine actually starts struggling with the heat, because I really have not got it designed to run at such high temperatures. Anyway, all that aside, this series has not gone away, not just yet. There are some videos to come, there are some cars still to go, there are the reduxes to go, so there is plenty more to come. Today we are going to be taking a look at this, or taking this out for a drive. This is the Audi R8 V10 Plus from, I believe, 2000, and I think this was between 2008 and 2012. Somewhere around that period. Actually, I think it wasn't 2008. I think the original came out in 2007. The V10 Plus came out sometime later, perhaps around 2012. I'm not 100% certain. The specs on Assetto Corsa do not seem to match the actual car exactly, and it just did not seem quite right, particularly as to when it came out. Anyway, as the name suggests, this has a 5.2 litre V10 engine in it, so the standard car was a V8. It is mounted mid-engine, so you can actually see it through the rear screen, rear window. You can just see the engine down there. It looks lovely with the carbon fibre. It produces a nice 542 brake horsepower, or 550 PS. So they did try to make it a fairly round number, but of course in brake horsepower that's 542 at 8,000 RPM with 398 pound-feet of torque, or 540 newton meters of torque at 6,500 RPM. It is a quattro, so therefore it is going to be all-wheel drive. The other thing that I think is not quite right here is that this is supposed to be a 6-speed manual. I say manual, probably manual sequential, but I have a feeling in Assetto Corsa for some reason the gearbox has 7 gears, which certainly is not right. Top speed stated is 198 miles per hour, which is 320 kilometers per hour, with 0 to 60 in 3.7 seconds. The wheels on this car are 235, or tyres, 235 35 R19s on the front and 295 30 R19s on the rear, and this car has a mass of 1,645-ish kilos, or 3,627 pounds. What am I expecting of this particular car? Well, if I quickly bring up the timesheet, we are looking at page 1, definitely looking at page 1 here, and I'm looking around the top 5 to top 6. Really, I expect it to beat the Corvette C7. I just expect it to beat that, due to it being all-wheel drive, although of course that makes it heavier and a little bit more understeery. I expect it to beat the Dodge Viper as well, but I think we are now looking at the territory where it could belong. If it fits in with a 755, I think that would be decent. A 7, if it gets anywhere near the Ferrari F40 at 750, though I know that can go a lot faster, that would probably be a fairly good lap. I do not see this taking on the 458 Italia at 744. That was just a special car, incredibly agile, spectacular to drive. I just do not see this German vehicle being able to keep up with that, just that driving style of the Ferrari. But it is a fast car, so you never know. There's only one way to find out. As usual, I'm going to do a couple of Patreon laps, so if you want to know what goes on them, please do go follow me on Patreon, or support me on Patreon, link in the description box below. But otherwise, after the intro, you are going to see a couple of proper laps, and let's see what kind of lap time I can bring, or I can put on the board for this. Leave a comment in the comments box letting me know what lap time you think this car can achieve. Okay, here we go. Just done a session restart. I think it's a good way to just make sure that there's no weird damage or anything that I've incurred over the Patreon laps. And because I now know about this hot lap mode, which I'm sure many people knew about before, I can say that yes, this does seem to work reasonably well for me. Now, one thing that I will say is that I seem to have done a lap in the past with this car, and I do not know when that was. I have no idea what the lap was. I have no idea whether it was with traction control, without. So that's the delta you're seeing, and obviously whatever I did on that lap, I must have done a fairly reasonable job, because, well, as you can see, I'm already 2 seconds down. No idea what that lap was, just no clue at all. It must have been a traction control lap though. I just cannot see myself having done a lap. Well, actually, now that I'm going green against that, maybe it wasn't a traction control lap. What was that lap? And when was that lap? That's the other question. What was it? When was it? Now, because I've not been in Assetto Corsa for a long time, or any racing title for quite some time, I am being a little bit maybe overly cautious when I'm driving, and what that is going to result in is I think that this car is not going to get, so I'm not going to set the lap time that this car is capable of. I think it's going to be a much slower lap time, which is no good, but at least I get a lap time on the board and I get a video out of it, which is kind of important. 2 seconds down on whatever that lap was. Now, hopefully you guys have put in the comments box your predictions of lap times, what you think this car is capable of. I think I know where it is going to go, or where it should go. I do not know if I have, at this point in time, the capability, with the lack of practice, to be able to put it there. But I think that this car does have it in it, if only I can get to grips with it. Speaking of getting to grips with the car, there is some four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive understeer that I am having to be fairly cautious about. Now, this isn't too major really, but it is something to be aware of. A good way to counter it seems on this car is just a little bit more power. Does tend to get the back end sliding just a little, and that does tend to prevent the understeer from taking hold too much. But I think if you go slightly fast into a corner, it does not like it, and then you hit the brakes, and then as you're hitting the brakes, it just does not work very well, in my opinion anyway. I'm still trying to figure out this particular corner. Different cars like to take it differently. Some prefer a wider line, some a narrower line, because of how you can put the power down in the car. So if it's a car that relies on momentum, for example, so it's a slower car, relies on some momentum, just a confidence lift there, you sort of are in that situation. Oh, do not touch that. You're in that situation where you want to take a slightly wider line and not have that was a bit slow, not have too much speed being shed off. Whereas in a car like this, you're oh dear, you're apparently doing that. Well, this is the other thing. That was just actually completely and utterly my fault. With a car like this, you're having to be a little bit more cautious with where you brake, because you've got to slow the car down, and then when to pick up the accelerator, because this car does have a lot of power. As I said, 542 brake horsepower. That is a lot of power. Admittedly, it is at the top of its range. It also has a fair amount of torque at nearly 400 foot-pounds of torque, something like that. So that is something to to be aware of with this vehicle. But it doesn't mean that you can just carry momentum. This vehicle's heavy as well. You can feel the mass of this car. Surprisingly, you probably think no, you're not going to be able to feel it, but you can feel the mass of this particular vehicle. And sometimes as I go around some of these corners, I've been thinking that, you know, would Audi have been better off trying to shed more mass on this, because it does feel just a little bit cumbersome. That being said, I suppose in the grand scheme of things, it isn't heavy. Now, if you look at something like a Continental GT, that's well over 2 tons. Range Rovers are well over 2 tons. So this isn't, at 1.6 tons, this isn't a massive car, but it is fairly large or fairly massive for a supercar, and you just feel it. And I think again it's the 4-wheel drive. That being said, this does not feel anywhere near as poor as the McLaren does it in this title. The McLaren in this title is atrociously bad. I say atrociously bad. No, it's bad. There are cars that are far worse. Whoa! What on earth? The wheel just pulled hard to the right there. Hard to the right. I almost just got taken off course there. Okay, let's see what this first lap brings. Now we're currently at 7:10. We've been off the track, so we'll have to see what this brings. I really should have gloves on. I should be all right. I have my gloves to the right of me. I took them off to see if it would be okay, but I don't think it is. I think I really should have them on. It's fine, I've only got a few minutes to go. Right, really not sure about the braking points on this car. That was perhaps a little too early for the braking points, but overall 750 is there. What was that? 7:56? I think that was a 7 minutes 56 that we just got right there. So that is not bad. That is truly not a bad lap time for a car that I'm not all too comfortable with just yet. Obviously I am improving all the time. That was actually a fairly decent corner for me, surprisingly. So that means was my previous lap time something like a 7 minutes 50? And if so, how on earth do I get back down to that? Bits better out of there. Look at a 7:54. I might try again. I might try 3 laps here. Might. Depends on how this second lap goes. That was close. That was close. Not great. Not great at all. I've got to stop really pushing the car. Try to understand the car and build up the lap time. Build up the speed. That's something that I think people tend not to do that much of. I think that's the difference between racing drivers, I suppose, and your everyday person, or of course people who know how to race, even if they're not racing drivers. Someone would come into a title and try to go max out, flat out all the time, and then there are people who have that instinct of, wait, no, let me build up to my maximum and see what I can achieve once I build up to that maximum, and see where I go from there. So I think people who do that are better at at the overall drive, I would say. And I hope that, you know, I'm somebody who does that, or is at the very least learning to do that. May not be there yet, but I'm learning to improve in that regard all the time. Right, yeah, there is a faster way through this set of corners. I just do not know it. I think the line I'm taking is too shallow going in, or too tight going in, and that's causing all sorts of grief coming out, because I'm then running out of road, and that was really poor. But this should hopefully make up for it a little. Not really. Again, just a little bit of understeer. It's that low speed. You've got that low speed understeer in this car, which does catch you out. It's a nice noise though through this area. Really sounds good. It's that noise of the V10 engine echoing around, which is really, really nice. We're currently sitting at 755, which is not unreasonable. Let's see if I can further improve this section. Yes, no, not really. Not really. Now again, here you've got to be very careful. If you touch that inside curve on the left at this sort of speed, it does tend to push you out wide just a little bit more than you'd like, and then you could end up on the grass on the opposite side, and yeah, it just all falls apart very, very quickly. Speaking of very, very quickly, that was not too bad. Now let's get this corner right this time. There we go. That's much better. On the brakes here. Slow it right the way down. Get it into second, which is what I was after. Did not go down the gear correctly. Watch that. Just fight the wheel a little. Hard on the brakes here. Into the carousel. Nice and gentle through here. Do not try and pick up the speed too early, because if you do, you'll push out, and then as soon as you push out, you're in a bit of a mess. Okay. Even if I get a 754, I'll be honest, I would take the 754. I'm not sure why I braked so much for that corner. I was just slowing down just a little too much. 754 I would take. I think that's a reasonable lap time for this, given what I've done. I think that's a reasonable lap time overall. Right, let's see if I can improve this bit just a little. Yes, I can. There we go. Much nicer. On the brakes. Cut in. Remember, there is that jutty out bit here. That's it. I always aim for that. I'm not sure if that's the right thing to do, but I tend to do it anyway. It seems to work for me. If someone would want to comment telling me whether or not that's the right thing, please do. But I probably will continue aiming for the jutty out bit. Or sticky out bits, however you want to refer to it, because it just gives me that little confidence going, okay, I can put my wheel out there, and then I know that the wheel being out there is not going to cause me too many issues, because I've got a little bit of space where I can just continue turning, bringing the wheel back in. Careful, that was a little bit too slidey. I lost a significant amount of time there compared to whatever that ridiculous lap was. In fact, it seems like whatever I did in this area must have been like, I must have blitzed this to be losing another second and a bit from what I had on that, whatever that fastest lap was, which I now do believe to have been a 7 minutes 50. So whatever I did must have been really, really quick. Now careful, do not go out on the grass. That's important. Not out on the grass. That's going to lose me time all the way down here. But I could make it back. I could make it back on the braking. I think this is the best I'm going to get, particularly as temperatures in this room have increased another 1.5 degrees, I think. Yeah, temperatures in my room have increased another 1.5 degrees. So I did say it could increase 3 or 4 degrees. Well, just in this period, which has been 40-ish minutes, it has increased another 1.5. Right, just a little bit more careful here. That's it, like so. There we go. That could give me just a little bit more than I would want. Around this corner. 753.8 I think is what I just got, which is not too bad at all. The question is do I risk another lap, and in doing so, do I risk crashing, or do I say that I probably could get into those 750s if I just really push the car, like really push this car. Now that I'm feeling a little bit more confident with the style of the car, with the driving of the car, and how I'd like to approach this car. So even there, just leaving my foot in it now, knowing that, okay, this car can perform. It can do what I want it to do. I'm not sure if it will always do what I want it to do, and certainly it's probably going to be instances where I'll probably end up crashing it, which could happen on this lap. But at this point in time, I think maybe another lap is worth it. 3 laps, 3-lap dash. Could I manage it, is the question. That's not quite on the apex, not where I wanted it to be at all, but we are, what, half a second up? Second up, apparently. Taking a look. Normally when I do these third laps, as people who have watched these videos before will be aware, I tend to, on the third lap, try not to look at the board at all, only glancing at it very occasionally, just so that I can focus on just getting the car into the right places and just seeing what happens. Sometimes I might be slower, sometimes I might be faster. It may work, it may not work. Sometimes I really do not know, and then sometimes I just like what I've just done there, I just end up binning it really and messing up the entire section, which may cost any time I've ever gained, or it might not. Now let's see if I can improve this a little. That seemed a little bit improved. That was a little bit improved as well. Now this bit I've got to be very careful of though. There we go. A little bit tighter there. That was actually a lots better. The tighter line was what I was after, and it just, again, at the slow speed the car pushes out, so just slowing it down just that little bit extra does help quite a significant amount. Right, let's have a quick look up there. We're about 2 seconds up somehow. Okay, well, I mean, I still don't think I'll get into the 50, but 2 seconds up is nothing to be sniffed at. There we go. That was a little bit better, I felt, but again, I'm not sure I'm carrying the speed in the right places for that. Watch the wash there as we sort of lift up. No confidence lift this time, keeping it flat. And then watch the turn in. Again, here I could lose a lot of speed if I do this wrong, which I have lost a lot of speed as I've done that wrong, but I'm still up, so I guess there is a little bit more to be said there. Some more, you know, there's still more to potentially come from this. I think I could have done this section a lot better, so let's try and do that now. Come on, and flat out. I do not think that's worked. I think that's gone. That did not feel quite as good. That was better, not quite as hard on the brakes. Just touching that curb, kissing it really, as opposed to smacking into it, which helps. Bits more there as well. Again, got to be quite cautious through this. I want to ensure that I'm up on this curb and then across this one, not on the grass, although I'll still count the lap. I think that was just a slight touch on the grass, nothing too major. I've actually lost time through it as opposed to gained any time, which is annoying, because I think I've probably lost 2 or 3 tenths through that. Definitely lost more time through there, so there is that. Again, I think now a 52 might be in it, which means that, which car am I battling at the 52s? Is that then the McLaren with a 53? I think the McLaren has a 53, so if I end up with a 52, that might be good enough for the McLaren. Certainly still not in Ferrari territory. The Ferrari is a 44, and the 50 is the F50. Sorry, the F40 is a the F40 is a 50 flat. So perhaps I could have aimed towards that, but not managed it. That was actually still on the. I was still on the tarmac there. One wheel was still on the tarmac, surprisingly. I'm as shocked as you are that one wheel was still on the tarmac there. That was bad. That was really bad. But perhaps a little bit tighter in here. A little bit better on the acceleration out of that. No, wrong gear. Second was really the gear I was after. I could improve this section though, because I did start understeering here. So maybe just a little bit better on the turning. There we go. Flat out from there. That really does improve a little. And every tiny bit, every corner does help. The lap has not been the greatest. It has been a little bit scruffy. As I said, I'm going to count it because, well, because it's because I think where I went off there was definitely no gaining of time. It was ever so slightly off. Just definitely lost time in those bits. The places where I missed the apexes and lost time because I went off, actually I have a feeling could have given me the 50 flat. And that's really, really disappointing, because I think that it was possible. I think it really, really was possible. And that is a 7:51.34. So that will 7:51.34 is going to go up on your screen right now, and having a look at where that is going to be ahead of the McLaren 570S, which I thought was a 53. It was not. It was the Diablo. The Diablo had a 53. The McLaren had a 52.4. So this time has definitely gone ahead of it, but not by much, which is what I was sort of expecting. I did say that if I start piecing together a reasonable lap, it should be getting towards that 50 mark. My practice laps were in the 8-minute region, so that just shows that I did have quite a bit of improvement. But obviously, whatever that fast lap was, that was in the 50s. That 750 might have been fast enough to beat the F40. I really do not know, but alas, I did not do it in this session. The car does certainly have it in it. I think I've done okay. So it slots into 4th place. The Audi R8 V10 Plus slots into 4th place on its street tyres. Now, thinking of drivability, well, it felt a lot better to drive than the McLaren, and the McLaren is somewhere, I think, 22nd, 23rd, something like that. The problem I have is that when it gets to somewhere like the top 15, it's a little bit harder to really determine which one is the right one, or the right place to put it, because they're all really close. So for example, if we on the first page, we've got the 911R, great car to drive. The 718 Cayman, which is nowhere near the fastest, it was 16, great car. The Skyline GTR, another great car to drive. All three of them completely different to drive. The Evo, a great car to drive, but I think perhaps I've put it a little bit too high up. The F40, amazing car to drive. The 458, slightly below that, and when I mean slightly, I mean ever so slightly below. So it's really difficult to figure out where to put this car, and I actually think this car, I'm trying to debate whether I put this behind the Testarossa or ahead of the NSX, which is 10th and 11th. That's where they are, because that is where I think a car like this belongs. But then, that being said, the Testarossa and NSX were both really nice cars to drive. And then you've got the 288 GTO, which was a really nice car to drive, and the Exceed-Skura. Exceed-Skura was an amazing car to drive. So where? And then you've got the M4, which was a little bit slidey. The Mazda RX-7, which was really nice as well. The Corvette is in there. I think this goes ahead of a Corvette. This feels better to drive than a Corvette. So really, at minimum, it's 14th. Where I think I'm going to put it is, I think it needs to go just behind the 512 Testarossa. So it's going to slot in on the second page in 12th place. So there you go. That is all for this Nordschleife challenge. I do apologise for it being such a long time since the last one. It has been a very long time. I do want to try and make some more. If I do get the opportunity, I shall make some more. So thank you very much for watching. Please remember to hit the like button if you like this video. Subscribe to the channel for more videos on Assetto Corsa. I have a few other ideas for videos I want to make that might be faster to make than this particular video. If you can do so, please do consider supporting me on Patreon at www.crashing into a barrier. That was a really lazy crash. I was just trying to take that a little bit faster than I wanted to. What was I saying? www.patreon.com/ECGadget. I wonder if I can do 11s in this. Your support would be massively appreciated. It would really help me out. That wasn't really an 11, was it? There's got to be a way of doing it. Also, you can find me at social media at ECGadgetsLP for both Twitter and Instagram. Is that not giving me what I want? I don't think that's giving me the 11s. Anyway, that is all from me. And I'll see you next time. That should give me something. Not a lot. That is all from me, and I'll see you next time in Assetto Corsa.